Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Agency Talk. This is Digital Marketer's weekly talk show where we sit down with industry experts and agency professionals. Today's guest is none other than Hassan Bash. Not only a founder, CEO, and fractional CMO, he is a highly accomplished Saudi American high performance coach, consultant, and scalable business advisor renowned for his expertise in system thinking. With a stellar track record in evaluating productivity and profits for founders and companies alike, Hassan stands out as a sought-after expert in his field. Today, we're talking leveraging AI for building agency brand authority online. As a reminder, if you're able to, please turn on your cameras so we can see your smiling faces. As always, have fun and engage in the chat. And if you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A tool down at the bottom so we can make sure to get those answered for you. As always, we're joined by Mark de Grasse as our host for today's Agency Talk. So without further ado, Mark, please take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Cameron. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope it's been a good year.
It's been an interesting year. It's always evolving and adapting.
Isn't it? It's kind of funny because I think back to the year. I'm like, man, so much happened, and it feels like it was recent, but it also feels like it's been like 10 years since January. So
I feel you.
I'm okay with it ending. How are you, Hassan?
I am good, man. That question, man, how am I doing? The only thing with the new era of AI and the time that we're in, with things changing so rapidly fast, the only thing that I could say is I'm evolving, I'm adapting to the current situation, either personally or professionally. I'll keep it real on this call. So I'm gonna say always it's good. No, it's evolving, it's adapting, it's changing. We're fighting enemies, we're going all in.
Yeah, I think it's it's pretty common. I talk to people all the time. I think I'm doing like 20 podcasts a week now. And it's been kind of like that for everybody. It's been good, evolution. People are learning things, finding things about themselves and their business. And I think that whole AI thing's kind of been the catalyst for a lot of this. Well, at least for me personally, because it's kind of, for me, it's like the realization of something that I've wanted for like 20 years, just the ability to make massive amounts of content, do massive amounts of research, and then, actually take my content and be able to show people how to implement it without having to learn the concept. They could just plug stuff in. So, how has AI kind of impacted you this year?
Man, with all the tools, every single month, every single week, there's new tools coming out, and I'm like, shiny object syndrome around my team is like, did you see this tool? It's like, guys, it's enough.
Yes, I did. No, shut up.
So, there is a few tools that, and resources that now I just have a person that basically just helps me research and test things out. And if it's great, then I go ahead and play with it and see how it works. And then I could give it to a client and say, hey, how do you like it? So there's always a testing where we deploy things before we start going all in any kind of tool, because there's tools that just flap and then just don't work out. But we're using it with sales, retention, getting clients back in the sales process. AI is in the whole customer journey, that the main customer journey. You could plug in AI any different area you really want. If it's copy, if it's video, the video aspect is getting better. It's kind of scary, man. And also on top of that, the voice, oh God. So it's just getting better and better. And it's like, it's not probably the most effective yet, but I would say in a couple weeks, it's just going to get where it's going to be scary a little bit, but it's working.
Yes. Well, and I'm happy to, say that GPT-4 is much better again, because for a while it was kind of like, man, this thing used to be awesome. I could do so much stuff. And then for probably a few months at least, I was like, man, this is rough. I'm having to massage the data, change the prompts, like it'll work good one day and then the next day it would be off. And so I think just in the last week I've been using it, and with the new visual function that they have for GPT-4, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is super helpful again. So that was nice. But with that said, what would you say are your top three AI tools that you and your team are using right now?
I'm going to talk about the first one, and the first one is called Be Human.
Mm.
Be Human is be and then human, and the company started just 4 years ago, and I'll talk about this actually through a story really quick, and I think this would resonate. So, for just right before COVID, I was building a campaign specifically targeting cryotherapy at the time. This is right before COVID. And I filmed about 150 videos, but each video was basically custom. There was some edits in between, working on those. I had a green back screen, and it would take me hours and hours to do that. But I knew that the open rate, the engagement would be amazing because of how personal of the messaging would,
Mm.
but it would take a lot of hours. So this is 4 years ago. This company called Be Human, the owner of the company is named Don, and he created it and through necessity, through AI. Now, what
Mm.
this tool does is basically automates and publishes one video that makes it all personal to all your other videos that you're connecting with. If it's your retention aspect of your customer, or if it's your sales process, so that you don't have to go and create every single video over and over again. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the side of the syncing is like when you get to see the lip syncing is not the best thing with the lip syncing. The voice is getting better with the process. But the cool part, check this out. This is for like all the agencies and marketers that are listening to this, because I know for a fact in the next 6 months to 8 months, this is gonna be it's gonna go crazy. So the idea behind it is that you could film, but also automate the process where the AI is generating your customers' websites. It will
Mm.
sync all the customers' sites and share their screen in the same time. Um, it's amazing. I could go into this topic for a while, uh, but it will populate all your clients' sites and where you could share your screen from one video. You just have to film one video, and you just say, for example, hi name, da 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 da, company, and then you could say company. It's the same thing as we put these emails, and it's like a personal thing, and it
Mhm.
basically takes it out and it says, hi John, hi Alex, hi Sarah. It's crazy personal. And the most
Oh.
important thing within AI is making it more personal. Now, us as marketers, we all know that. But the people that are just, living their life, they don't know about this yet.
Mhm.
So there is a wave for this, which I would say in the next 6 months. There's only some time until everyone knows about it.
That's fantastic. Well, it's funny because I've been talking about HeyGen a bunch, and kind of the translation tool that allows you to customize, your video for a language. But this, add that into customizing each individual video to put in the words. And I've actually mixed the tools where I actually use the instant avatar function to type something for me to say. And then I took that and translated it. I'm wondering if I could do the same thing and put it into, Be Human, and have it put the custom message. I think you're right too. I think there's going to be just this massive, surge of customized content for these one-to-one connections, which is really what we've always dreamt of, right? As marketers, like you were doing it manually, which is
Yes.
incredible, by the way.
It was a lot of work. I mean, I had an editor that would spend hours on the edit. We would segment a piece of the video, like the middle, the end, the middle and the end, and the beginning would be changing through the process. It's been a while, but I mean, just to give you guys through that engagement just before COVID, I sent 150. We close about 15% out of that. Engagement basically, which is really not bad, just
No.
as a test running. So Yeah, so it's with AI, just being a little bit more personal saves you a lot of time, makes it more personal because the aspect of AI is just making it more personal, even with LinkedIn outreaches and all this other stuff, but not being salesy. That's the side of things. We do not want to be salesy with the conversation.
Wow. You have to have a good video in the first place, right? Like, just customizing a bad video is going to do a ton, but I think you have, that's kind of the next level. It's like, yeah, if you could produce a great video, that's good. But if you could take that and now customize it for every single person you send it to, now you have something that's, potentially incredible. So we'll definitely have to follow up with you and see how, the close rate's affected and see what you're doing there. So that's, would you say that's number one for you right
Number
now?
one, 100%.
So what's number two?
Number two, I mean, I'm still exploring with all the tools within ChatGPT. I mean, ChatGPT 4 is been great. I mean, with the formulas that are happening within, like working on the formulas with the team. That's my second. Still using it with a couple softwares with Go High Level or other softwares and plugging it into other things. You can plug it into if you're using any kind of email software like Instantly. If you heard of Instantly before, it has a lot of different features with AI that you can connect with it. So I'm plugging in the API with other softwares in the same time. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and like you said, I think it's getting more and more functional and a little bit more consistent. I'm hoping they don't jack anything up
I hope so.
right before the new year because I'm like,
Yes.
okay, it's now functioning pretty good.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and keep this rolling. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think ChatGPT, it's probably my number one just because I use it constantly.
All the time.
Yeah. But no, I can see how Be Human, especially for your specific methodology of marketing, makes a ton of sense. All right, what's the last one? What's number three?
The last one. The last one. I'm looking at my other screen to see if I
That's
oh
why I made a database on my website where I just say like, here's all the AI that I've used, and that helps me personally.
I think I'm gonna stick with these two for now. Because the other one is I'm not quite sure. I'm just not. I'm still
I think that's fine too.
yeah.
Two massively capable tools, in order to, especially because you have a team to train people on, to systematize and write SOPs and all that kind of fun stuff. I think that's good. But yeah, if you highlight one, just let us know and we'll add it to your list.
I will. I will. I will.
Awesome. So let's talk about the official subject, which is leveraging AI for building agency brand authority online, effective online presence strategies. For you, I know you do a lot of that kind of one-to-one connection. Is that the best way to build the authority you're talking about, or are you kind of talking about general authority, within the market space?
I'm talking about full stack authority. So it's not just having it's a one point aspect, but when someone searches your name or searches your company, and having that authority that is kind of like they search you up because in today's world, if you're an agency, marketer, consultant, coach, it's people are gonna search you up and look you up. What has this guy been up to, or what you guys been what as a company, as a person, as a like what have you been really up to? And everything is there. Now with AI could help you produce more of that, but when I'm talking about leveraging authority and building authority it's really important to get yourself featured in a couple places. And getting yourself on other on other podcasts. Also content where people kind of want to see your own personality, your values, your standards, who you are as a person. Because we're missing that part of the story of adding your story to the world, but also your personality, and then whatever you're selling, whatever you're offering, or whatever you're serving people based on. Yeah.
I love that. Well, and I've always been a big advocate of, kind of sharing as much as possible and kind of proving your competency is the phrase I usually use, because you can do that now. Whereas before, I think, all consumers, us included, had to kind of rely on the marketing, right? Like, well, that company has a consistent brand, looks professional, their product looks nice. And it was kind of this, kind of shallow level of judgment before we said, okay, we're committing to this brand and we're buying the product. I think nowadays, since you do have the capability to essentially answer every question that your customer could have by simply running a few prompts and building a database on your website, there's not really a reason for you not to. And so I think combining that kind of like, hey, you should be answering everything, otherwise they're going to your competitors to get that answer, plus what you're talking about, which is the authority building, which is, hey, how do you portray your values? How do you add personality? Is actually a huge switch from the market, because for the last 10, 15 years, I think everybody's been committed to like, hey, let me just make something look good. Let me make it look professional. Let me make it flow right to get the sale, and then whatever afterwards. So I think what you're talking about is actually the combination of those two. Like, hey, let's bring the personality back. Let's let people connect with you, because it's possible these days. And now you could have a real following that understands who you are without having to, trick people into committing to your brand.
Exactly.
So with all that said, what's the best way to, do you have like a step-by-step process for that ability, or the, authority building, process?
There is no right and wrong. It's just, I'm going to be be very real. You got to have to do the boring work. There is boring work that us entrepreneurs sometimes have friction of doing. And going into the world of AI, there is still boring work. Yes, it could automate, it could create, it could start putting articles out there, but moving again forward with the next decade or the next year, 2024, it's not going to be an easy year. It is not going to be an easy year. I'm not saying that to put fear. I'm saying that because it's the reality of friction, us as entrepreneurs, and we have to do the boring work. Now, the step-by-step process of you building authority, there's millions of ways of you doing that. And the cool part is everyone has their own unfair advantage. And you have to find what is your unfair advantage with your resources, with your connections, and possibility of sharing your story online, getting featured. Now it's getting easier and easier to be featured. It's not like for marketers and agencies consult. It's not that complicated to start getting featured in specific publications within your niche, or generally specifically. So if I give you a step-by-step, Mark, I mean, you creating specific content based on what the pain is in your customer base on YouTube. YouTube is still working, still works.
Yeah.
Getting featured in specific articles that you could build trust with your prospect, and you could share these resources with them. That's great. That's awesome. Interviewing the right power partners within your industry or your Dream 100. When I'm talking about the Dream 100 is I'm hoping everyone is building their Dream 100, because building profitable partnerships, which is our last conversation that we have, is actually building profitable partnerships. I'm never going to stop that. That is always something that is going to be constant. Building profitable partnerships, because one referral, one connection from building profitable partnerships locally or globally, depending on exactly where you're at, what do you want to do? It is so important. And I mean, one of the things that to simplify this is build your Dream 100. Build your Dream 100. Podcasts, articles, publications, groups, communities, people, connections. I could go on and on and on, and you could start doing the research, because my team is still doing the research constantly on that aspect of my own Dream 100 and who I want to be a part of, or who do I want to be connected with. It just takes a connection so that you dive into that profitable partnership so that you can expand your authority.
I love that.
Yeah, through relationships.
Well, and I think the number 100 is really, pivotal too, because you need a long list. A lot of those people are not going to get back to you, especially if it's like, if it's a really big person, it's not even because they're ignoring you or something. It's just because they're inundated with contacts constantly and they just can't get to it. But if you don't create that list in the first place, then there's really no launching off point to be like, okay, what am I doing next? And I think you could even expand that concept of the top 100 kind of connections that you're talking about to just your top 100 pieces that you wish you could create. And that goes into the articles and the videos and the things that could provide a ton of value to, both your customers and your potential customers without having to really think about it very hard. You know what they want, just
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
you know what you want.
Yeah.
And just making that, is a huge. So what do you suggest for that? Because I know a lot of people hear like partnerships and they're thinking like, okay, well, I don't want to partner with a competitor, or I don't understand how the relationship could work between my company and their company. Do you have some tips on building that list?
Yes, 100%. So the you start with, you have people that are the small macro kinds of influencers or people that you want to build profitable partnerships. And it could be with other agencies, by the way.
Mhm.
That's one of the biggest mistakes I did when I started back in the day is I should have just partnered up with a couple different agencies, and we should have sent referrals to each other based on services and so on. And that relationship could make you a lot of money, a lot of connection, like anyways, but that's like one aspect of thing. But looking at building your Dream 100 from a macro level, it could be partnerships, relationships, people that could send you referrals. And it's like building your own persona. Like it's the same thing,
Mm,
like your
I
avatar.
like that.
You're building your avatar based on that. And who are the people that you want to be connected based on your persona? Who has your persona? Who is in that world that is talking to your persona and avatar? If it's in the SaaS industry, or if it's in the consulting industry, or if it's in the plumbing industry, or the organizing industry, depending on what industry you're talking about, it just takes some research and again, doing the boring work. Sometimes we're delegating some stuff that we should not be delegating.
Mhm.
Sometimes the stuff that we should be delegating is some after doing the research, maybe with someone, and then delegating the whole process because it's your brand. It's everything that you're doing to share your thoughts. So one thing is small. You can't go big. I'll give an
Mhm.
example. For example, Russell Brunson. Um, he got Tony Robbins after a decade. It took him 10 years to build a relationship. It took him 10 years to get Tony Robbins to basically share his voice on his Facebook fan page. 10 years. So you have some aspirations that you want to get to, but also you have the other low ticket macro people that you can actually build a relationship that both of you can benefit. If it's a blog, podcast, book, power partner that sends you referrals. Yeah. So
I love that. Well, and I think having some variation, because you're not like, well, I want to have Grant Cardone on my podcast. I want to have Mark Cuban on my and you list all these people. They're like, well, maybe put that at the 100 mark. We're gonna
yeah,
start. If
exactly.
you start realistic and be like, I'm going to contact the marketing agencies in my town and see if there's any synergy there. But I
Exactly.
think, just make something, and honestly, you could just use AI to do it if you're really lazy. But I do like your point about not delegating the process, because it's nobody's going to do something right if you haven't done it right yourself. And that seems really obvious. Like, yeah, of course you can't train somebody to do something you haven't done, but I'm finding that as long as until I've done the process like 5 to 10 times, I don't really have the knowledge necessary to even delegate it in the first place. And even though it's a pain in the butt to generate my first article or to generate my first video or to do these things, I think it's 100% necessary for you to get your hands dirty prior to pushing it off, especially when it comes to your brand, because your brand, if you haven't defined your brand and you can't really speak to it, and that's what I'm giving my speech at TNC about is what I call a brand avatar, which is like your customer avatar, except it represents your company. And it's a concept where I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that way sooner? Because then you could say, okay, here's your brand's persona, here's your brand's avatar. Who would this person want to connect with? And then you think, oh, well, that's obvious. I said that my brand avatar is this person with this values and everything that you mentioned. And now you just think of connecting this person with whoever. And I think that helps me conceptually, because a lot of times I'm like, well, I don't know what the heck I think. I'm better now. But
Yeah.
for a lot of people, until you have that kind of like self-knowledge, and if your company doesn't fully fit with you personally, then you have to create this process, because otherwise you're really connecting everything to you, which might not be right based on what your brand is.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's an evolving process. The Dream 100 is an evolving process from like really wanting to connect with like really top people to really small. So and you get to go and you get to add more people within as you kind of go through this journey, you're going to add more people to it to build your authority from different ways of the aspect, podcast, video, articles, being featured, being on TV, whatever that is for you specifically.
No, I love that. Well, and you know, like you said, it's a process. It's not going to be perfect at the start, and even you might find that entire groups of people that you're like, oh, that's a perfect partnership. If I could set up with this group, you might get into that group and be like, nope, I was wrong. I don't like these people at all. So, and then you pivot, and
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
that's totally fine. You know, I think a lot of times we think that you have to go through, well, and with like campaigns or short term tactics, like you do have to stick with the plan. But in terms of what you're talking about, which is brand authority, that's an evolving process until you've worked on it for, honestly, I'd say a year. Like it's 1 year. That's how long you need to work on saying this is what my brand is before you could really speak to it with you know, authority and confidence, which
Exactly.
is tough. So how long do you think it took you to kind of come to the realization of your brand?
I mean, it's still evolving. It's still progressing. I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still in the trenches. I am still doing the boring work. I am still with the team doing the boring work. And like figuring it out as I go. That's one of the most important thing as you guys are listening to this is like I'm still figuring it out, and you're still figuring it out. It's an evolution of things that you need to be able and be willing to be in the friction so that the friction gives you more aha moments. And those aha moments are the iterative process so that you can actually implement it. So I would say, you know, a good year, but it's an ongoing process, man.
It is. I think it never stops. Well, and that's kind of why I like the concept of the brand avatar, because if you think of how you make your customer avatar, there's a before and there's an after, right? Like that's what we teach at Digital Marketers, the customer avatar canvas. And so that should be your brand too. So before this process, what was your brand like? It was disjointed, confused, didn't have a lot of confidence, didn't have, you know, set principles, all these things. And then after you figured out this process, now you have a presence and it's defined and it's clear and it's obvious. And so I think if that should be your goal with your brand and your brand authority. Otherwise, you're just going to be spinning your wheels and trying things. Yeah, shiny objects, right? Like, well, I'll try this, and then I'll try that, and then I'll try this. And it's like, no. Well, I'll do that. Try the things, but try it for a little bit and find out what actually works.
It's like testing. You're shipping it, rather than being in the minutia of things. Ship it, test it, get feedback. And that's the best thing that I ever done is ship it sooner. Sometimes, I mean, depending on what you're shipping out, because of reputation, in the same time, you want to be careful from that side of things. But I would rather ship it and get feedback and iterate and make it better as I go.
Love that.
Love that.
Now, in terms of you know, kind of growing your business, have you found that one type of media kind of resonates with you? I know you talked about, you know, kind of automating the video process. Would you say video is like your ideal content?
So I love that question. So, you know, back in the day, I thought like one thing. It's just like one thing. In the beginning, you want to focus on one thing. And until you have a process to a certain degree that you could always evolve and make it better on a monthly basis, that's great. For example, let's talk about a couple years ago when LinkedIn was awesome. You know, LinkedIn was awesome. No one was really pitching you online. No one was doing anything. And LinkedIn was great. Now it's not. Everyone is pitching you and all that stuff. So I'm saying that story is because the messaging on LinkedIn needs to change now, and how we build relationships on LinkedIn. Your messaging and how you interact, even if it's a potential customer, you're the way your message is and you build a relationship has to be a little bit different than what's the normal aspect of what people see. So setting up a process, for example, LinkedIn outreaches. If we're talking about sales and marketing specifically, is that, Mark, where we're going, right? On this side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you want, really.
Okay. So that's number one. So let's say that's an example. You set that process. If it's ongoing, it's great. your prospecting, your marketing, and all that stuff on LinkedIn. Then you go to the second aspect, email marketing. You finish that, and that's a process. And then you have your reviews. Digital marketer, you guys have your reviews, right? You look at your reviews and then you adapt it, but making sure that you have legs in the ground is really, really important. And then you could add going to events, going to public speaking, then you go into this. But the most important thing, if you want to do everything, that's for me, in my experience, it's a shiny object and you're not able to do everything. Your energy is going everywhere rather than focusing on one thing and building the legs so that you can actually stand and then improve it on a quarterly basis with that process. Because Instagram works, TikTok works, LinkedIn works, YouTube works, all of it works. It's just you need to find your own way of actually spending enough time on it.
No, that's a great point. And it's again, it seems obvious maybe, but it's really hard. For me, like I actually had a cycle of like the last like 15, 20 years where where I started in marketing was actually in video, where I had a fitness magazine and a gym, and so I was like, oh well, video's new. This is like mid 2000s. And I was like, let's just do tons of video. And what I hated about video at the time that I saw, and this is something that you could do to kind of identify maybe the media that you want to focus on, was that all the fitness videos online were just so verbal, where it was like some jerk in the gym standing there like, let me tell you why this is going to work. And I'm like, just show me how to do a push-up. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want to do a push-up. How do you do a push-up? And it was like 10-minute video. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. And so what we did was we made 30-second videos. And I'm like, you know what? We're just going to show the exercise being done. It's going to be 30 seconds, 15 seconds, normal speed, 15 seconds, slow speed. And that's it. And that's what we would post. And we ended up posting, thousands of these. And that's what built the entire business. But during this whole process, I got bored. And then I said, you know what? I really like graphics. Like, I'm going to focus on graphics. And so then I stopped doing videos a ton. I started working on articles and graphics. And so I did that for another 5 to 8 years. And then I decided, you know what? Podcasts are popular. And so now I make hundreds of podcasts. But what's actually happened is, with every iteration, what I found was I was building a database of content. And I was saying, okay, I'm going to do videos. I'm going to do a lot of videos as fast as I can in the same format with a standard, kind of structure. And this is going to allow me to do a bunch of those. And then I'm going to do these graphics. And okay. And now I'm going to do these podcasts. And so I always tell people, if you just treat your content like you're building a database that could then be referenced, now you have something that you could refer back to. You know what you did. It's easy to plan. You got a list. And then you just stop being creative for a few seconds and just do the work. Do the work for a month or a couple months. Yes. And boom, you have a bigger database than probably 99% of your competitors, because nobody does what I just said. Like, literally nobody. Make a list, put it on your website. So I think if you combine those two aspects of, just focus for a little bit, and then you get good at that, and then you could add on. And then you get good at that, and then you could add on. But I think that, like you keep, the evolution, I think, is the best word for it.
Yeah.
And you'll have some amazing stuff, and a website that's worth money. Like, I sold mine. Actually, that was the basis of me selling mine, was the database and the content. And then you have an asset. Plus, it just makes it more organized, so you could actually think through. And, because the most disappointing part of making content is you spending a ton of time on one piece, and you're like, oh, this is going to be the perfect piece, and I'm going to put all this work into it. I'm going to make everything perfect, and then I'll put it online, and everybody's going to cheer, right? And then it's like, but even if that does work, it doesn't matter, because you only have one piece. There's nothing for people to subscribe to. There's nothing for people to, commit to in the long run. And so now you just disappointed everyone. And that's if the piece is good. And my experience is that nothing I think is good will actually be treated as good. So I default to just lots. Let me do lots of this. And then even if it's bad, it's going to be buried in a pile. Like, it's fine. So
exactly. And I realized within the process is like that the types of content that builds authority, no matter what platform it is, you could it's just it's a search engine. Like you could see, like when someone searches your name on Google, whatever, like search YouTube pops up, TikTok pops up, LinkedIn pops up, all these things pop up, and it's also building credibility because people are searching. Um, Even if people are not liking your post, you go
Yeah.
on an event. This happens all the time. Go on an event. Oh my God, I've seen your content. Wow.
Ah, yes.
Well, you could have commented. You could have liked it. I love your content, but well, like it next time, please. You get to see that all the time. And I'll give you an example, Mark, because I was at a party just 2 weeks ago, like a Christmas party, whatever. And I was going to this party, and all professionals, okay, all professionals. And I go into this, and it's like I go there, and it's like everyone. I don't know, I don't know a lot of people, but everyone sees me and knows me. It's like I see your content. And I'm like, this is weird. Everyone knows my content because I'm producing it on specifically, for example, LinkedIn.
Mm,
They see it. It still works. When I go to an event, in-person event, there's authority.
mm.
There's credibility.
That's fantastic. Well, and I think that's something that is hard to realize because I've had the exact same experience where it's just like, I talk to somebody, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen you've been doing all this stuff and I'm following you online and blah, blah, blah." And I think the same thing. I'm like, why didn't I have 12 likes on that post? What are you talking about? Nobody likes this post. And it's just people like that, people who don't, aren't engaging with the content, but they are. They're
They
doing the
are.
important part, which is remembering it, which
Oh
is
my God.
really really vital. And I think that's, what you're talking about is a huge disconnect between digital marketing and really real marketing, where real marketing, I don't care. Real marketing doesn't care about your metrics, right? Your recorded metrics. Real marketing is you going to an event and everybody recognizes you because you've been posting content and everybody's excited. And when they meet you in person, they're like, but I will say that one way around that situation would just be to ask for people to do that in your video or in your podcast. Like, hey, if you like this, just comment hell yeah in the comments, and boom, now you gave them instruction. And I think that's a whole other component of engagement online where you do have to train people how you want them to connect with you. Because otherwise what happens is they'll just, and I get this all the time, like, "Oh my gosh, Mark, I was going to contact you, but you're so busy. You're so busy. I didn't want to bother you and blah, blah, blah." And I'll be like, "Oh my God, this is not the point." It's like, the whole point is that you wanted to connect with me and then you connected with me, not that oh, Mark's too busy, I'm never going to contact. I'm like, "No, here's my cell phone. Like, just text me next time. I'm bad at email because I have too many emails." But Cameron's nodding. I'm actually very good at email, and Cameron takes all the credit. No, I'm just kidding. Cameron, just start responding to people. That's what you do. Just pretend to be me. But no, that's a great point. And really, but it's working. And so, I will say that to everybody out there, if you're worried, like, "Oh, I'm doing all this work and nobody's noticing." No, they probably are noticing, and you're doing the right thing. And but honestly, there's only a percentage of people online that feel comfortable making comments or feel comfortable liking even. They're very not closed off, but they're just not public people. And that's fine. And that might be most people, because a lot of people are just terrified of social media or anything being recorded. So that's hard.
It's a simple graph, right? We start like doing all the work, and we think that, oh my God, I'm posting and nothing is working. Oh my God, oh my God. And we forget about all the work that we did. And at some point you go to an event or something happens and it starts to succeed online. So this is a simple kind of reminder of how we go through this journey called entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
We do all the hard work, the boring work. It's the boring work that you can't really run away from. It is the boring work. There's no
It is.
yes, there's secrets, of course. Secrets are good. At the same time.
Well, and, the problem is kind of our fault in marketing, because what do we do in marketing? We find our big wins, right? And then we tell everybody about the big wins, and we say like, "Oh, I ran this campaign and then I made $100,000 and it was so easy." And then what they don't mention is the 2 to 10 years of failure of not getting $100,000 with the campaign and not working and all these things that happened forever. And you're just highlighting the tip of the mountains of the hike up. And we need to remember that as marketers that, you present the best. It's kind of like, when people say, oh, that commercial underrepresents this population. And you're like, yeah, because that advertiser is spending $3 million on this ad. And when I spend $3 million on stuff, I'm going to do the top of whatever. And that's how, this kind of bias happens in marketing. So it's difficult to explain to people that the suck is the 99% of the stuff that you're doing, and the 1% is when you win. And so just in that regards, how do you keep yourself motivated during the suck, the boring stuff and the trials and everything like that?
That's a good question, man. I was just talking about that with my wife. What keeps you motivated? So motivation is never gonna last. You have to find your enemies. That's one, because that gives you some fire. That's one. There's a good book by Patrick Bet-David about enemies, so that you should take a look at that. If anyone want to know more about enemies, that's one. The other side of things is going to be habits. So you have your consistent habits, and again, there's logical goals, and there's emotional aspects of things. You have to have both. We have to have the logical things, and we have to have the emotional aspects of things that drives us as humans. So finding what motivates you through habitual things on a weekly basis, it's about coming back to your commitment, your standards, what your values are. I have to always evolve, because if I'm not motivated, I gotta find the habits that stick me to that motivation. I have to I have to read biographies, listen to stuff that I have listened to in the past. You get to see there are days or weeks that you have done so well, whatever reason, you're focused, deep work, you're getting stuff done and all this other stuff. And because of other habits that you have done that got you to that point, you listened to some inspirational videos, you maybe read a good book, or you had a conversation with a mentor, whatever that is, or with a friend that gave you this great story. We need to listen to inspiration biographies consistently so that we move forward. That's one aspect. And then, of course, sticking up to your habits. Motivation never lasts. It doesn't last all the time. It's not gonna last. There's days are gonna be so hard, and you can't find motivation. Like, what are you gonna do? You have to stick with consistency of your habits. Yeah.
No, and that's a great point, because I think it's those habits that'll cause the success, and the habits aren't fun, and they're not sexy, and they're not anything. But like you were saying, passion is temporary and fleeting. And if you're married, like, that's one of the tenets they talk about. Like, you can't build a marriage off of just passion. It just doesn't work. You have to have that, but if the entire relationship is based on just that, then you're going to fall apart, because it's it's kind of a shallow emotion when you really dive into it. Obsession with something. And it's the same thing for your project. I have that happen all the time, where I get like so excited about a project. I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill it. This is going to be the most amazing thing ever, and blah, blah, blah. And then a few weeks pass and you're like, oh God, I'm so tired.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't have the passion for it today. And so you have to have that structure, and, the plan and the objective, and like you were talking about, which is the mission. Like, what's the overall mission? Because we all know missions take time, and missions are a war, and that every single day is just one battle. And so if you don't have that end objective of like, okay, here's where I'm going to get to, and all of my actions are, kind of coordinated to that one point, then you'll do all the other work to make that happen. And the fact that you're not excited about it just doesn't matter. I'm not excited about brushing my teeth in the morning, but I'm going to do it anyways, because I know long term I want to keep my teeth. It's good for me. It's healthy, but exactly. It's not going to do anything right now other than make my teeth clean for a second. So no, I completely agree. Now, that mission is hard to find. I will say that.
Yes.
So what would you say, just in terms of you don't have to say your entire life, but your business mission? Well, I've come to the habit of just mushing everything together. Because when I was trying to have like a separate work mission from my family mission and my spiritual mission, and it just didn't work. So now I have a central mission.
Has anyone watched the Netflix movie called The Sound of Freedom?
Oh no.
Okay, The Sound of Freedom.
Let's look that up too. Good
You
stuff.
want to add more to your mission other than money and 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and making the money and getting to this much monthly reoccurring MRR and getting to this amazing, great, because it could help you and your family. But adding more to your mission on the why purpose aspect, I think watching Sound of Freedom would be awesome because there's other things that you could possibly impact in the world, kids, charities and nonprofits, and being a part of that, but also as having that, like, there's a lot of things in me as I was a kid back in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, going to school. I had a lot of enemies that I need to prove. And I have proven that you could do it in a different way. And the last decade of this progress that I have been on this journey. So going through that process of a mission, other than adding the money aspect and what is that money going to do for your life, but adding a emotional aspect to it, it's everything. It's everything. Knowing what you're gonna do with that money, what you like it. Again, there's small missions, there's big missions. Everyone has their own missions, but that's what I would say. It's a big topic, Mark.
Oh no, that's a huge topic, but I think it's pivotal, and I think it's something that we, kind of push off because, like you said, the financial objective is what we need to survive. You have to make this much money, you have to make this much profit, you need to grow this fast, whatever. But I think you're right, where a lot of times when you look at the market, even marketing education stuff, where it's like, you could be like me on a jet, and you could be like me in a fancy car, and I'm just like, oh, who cares? Who cares about that stuff? That stuff doesn't matter. It just is just a flex. And flexes are like the passion that I talked about. Who cares? Am I going to drive around in your fancy car? Because that's the only benefit that me as your viewer could get from what you just posted, other than the inspiration to be rich and flying around. And so, I think it's too common, and you have to have that financial objective and the long-term goal, but it's just not going to carry you very far because, one, you're going to have to keep on making money forever based on inflation and the way things are going. Like, you just have to increase your income constantly. Like, that's just a brushing your teeth.
It's a given. Right? Yeah, it's a given.
But if you don't have that bigger mission, you're just going to be like, yay, I accomplished the thing. I did the big money, whatever, and I got the thing. And then you realize, then you have to go back to the drawing board, because that's what happened to me, where I did all the things and I was like, wow, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I don't care. And I'm just as sad as I was before. So until I realized that my happiness has zero connection to my visual success, then I was able to now go forward and be like, you know what? The income's going to fluctuate. The success is going to fluctuate. And that's just life. But if my mission is, hey, my personal mission is just to help as many people as possible. Like, that's actually been my mission since I had a gym. I'm like, if I could just impact as many people as possible to improve their lives. Back then it was through fitness, and now it's for, professional development. Then I could feel good no matter what happens to me financially. And I'll be successful because I decided that that's what successful means, instead of fancy car and big house and travel and recognition through who gives a crap. The recognition I need is from my customers saying, hey, I used the thing that you gave me and it totally worked. And I'm like, boom, win. Nothing else really matters after that. So you're totally right. And I think everybody should really take a look at themselves and really think about that. And it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy to look at myself and take a look at all the stuff and reflect, and like, that's your version of yourself on a consistent basis, improving your spiritual aspect of things, your emotional aspect, your logical things. It's a whole process. That's why there's no more being skillful at one thing. You have to develop skills as you go in life, in business. it's an ongoing process of evolution, and it's always coming back to, yes, there's logical, there's emotional, and adding them together is a piece of it. But yeah, 100% with you.
Well, and I think it's it's not easy, but nothing we do is. You know, if you really take a step back and you look at it, you're like, well, you doing the wrong thing or you doing the easy thing isn't easy either. So just step back, learn, keep going. And if you could define success in terms, we would just go back to the avatar. Because actually when I think when I wrote the certification for On It, I put a section in there that I call it the good man, where it was just like this vision of a good person that I kind of pictured as like, man, because I always looked at guys in their old age, and I was like, man, that guy just does everything right. Like he's always helping people. He never had anything to do with money. He stepped up whenever it was necessary. And so I made this kind of picture of the ideal person. And then I've just pursued that since then. And I fail constantly, just so everybody knows. But having that picture actually provided me with the vision I needed to be like, okay, well, what would lead to that? And then you come up with your mission, and
Exactly.
everything else comes together. Super difficult, but
I mean, yeah,
you got to start somewhere.
100%. I think, one of the side of things that the aspects of the emotional aspect is we have our visions, we have our culture, we have our dreams, we have our mission, we have our will, and then we have enemies in the same time. And then on the other side, on the logical side, we have our capital, we have our team, we have systems, we have planning, there's skills that we need to adapt, we have our competition. All these are aspects of the logical and emotional aspects that it's a constant evolution of things that we're always adapting and seeing. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, I think it's been a fantastic message. We got into it, so I didn't ask anybody if they have questions. Does anybody have questions for Hassan for the last 5 minutes we got here? Let's hear it. Michael, Gabe, Axel, Cadence. We got to have some questions. We went pretty deep. I tend to do that sometimes, especially at the end of the week when I'm tired.
Yeah.
But no, this has been great, Hassan. I think, I know, since we talk a lot personally because we're friends, I know about your story, and to see that you're, at this point is huge. I think you've probably not had a super fun year, but you have a great outlook, and, you learned a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh my, again, it's like this year is like almost 10, it felt like 10 years.
I think back to like 6 months ago, I'm like, back in the 80s.
But I'm excited. I'm excited about 2024. Not gonna be easy. Got to do the boring work. And just evolving and adapt, and the progression of this journey that we go through.
Love
I'm
it.
excited, really excited.
Well, I think if you get something out of this, whoever's watching or listening, if you make that dream 100 before the new year, like you're setting yourself up for success. Like just sit down for 30 minutes, put a timer on, and just make that list. And you saying that intention will actually make a lot of it happen in the first place, just doing that one thing. So
And
I'd say
with AI, there can, build a whole
it take 5 minutes.
Yeah, so in AI, but then you want to spend a few hours after that to clarify it,
Yes.
and spend more time on it, so you can get the best out of that, the Dream 100. But it's the easiest and simplest. Just got to spend the time.
Yes. Love it. And if you do want to use AI, what I suggest is do a prompt where you say, hey, here's my business, and here's the, what categories of people in professionally and personally, if I connected with, would lead to me succeeding at this goal that I have. So, and maybe I'll put a prompt in somewhere. I'll just post it on this, unless you want to do it, Hassan. Because I was just like, oh, I know exactly how to write this already. I'm gonna put your name on it. I'm gonna say based on Hassan. So I'll post that in.
That's fine. There's a lot of different ways, but that's fine. 100%.
Nice. Okay, so everybody look for that. I'll post it in a little bit. And then where can people learn more about you in the meantime, or connect with you for their top 100?
LinkedIn. I'm on social media. Just write my name, Hassan, or Hassan Bash, or Bash Revenue. Simple, Hassan Bash. You'll find me online.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Always appreciate your time. Looking forward to see what you accomplish in 2024. Because I, echo that it's not going to be easy. Just so everybody has a heads up if you haven't been watching the news. But that's okay because we got our community, got our friends, and we're all going to make it. It's going to be great.
Exactly.
It's going to be better than ever. That's why you got to look at it.
Yeah. Just be prepared and plan ahead and reflect consistently and progress.
Yes. And pray if you like to do that, because that helps too.
Have faith. Have faith.
Have faith. There you go. All right, guys.
Okay.
See you next time.